Hello everyone, today is 1st of December, Sunday, so I hope you have a wonderful day and great weekend. Now it's about 1 o'clock, middle of the day by Moscow time. I'm Levan Gudadze and this is my first update for a day in which I'll share all the main news that are making headlines in Russian media outlets and Russian language pages on different internet platforms. And there are quite a few very significant developments and news that I'd like to share with you for this moment. And today I'm gonna start from Middle East because of major developments in Syria, where for last several days terrorist groups, Israeli, US, UK, and Turkish-backed terrorist groups are conducting large-scale offensive operation and unfortunately gain control over the vast areas that previously was controlled by Syrian government and Syrian forces. Terrorists establish control over the dozens of big and small settlements, including biggest city in Syria, Aleppo. According to latest reports, Aleppo mainly is in hands of terrorists now. Only several districts on the northern eastern part of Aleppo formerly under control of Assad's regime or Kurdish forces that send their troops to basically stop this offensive of the terrorists. But according to some reports that I see, even Kurdish forces are unable to stop this terrorist offensive. And initially they establish control over the Aleppo International Airport, but later on reports came in that terrorists actually occupy that territory also, which means that Kurdish troops either were defeated and destroyed, or they just also ran away, as many units of Syrian Arab Army did from different areas. And as a result, in many settlements, these terrorist groups entered without a single bullet were shot. I guess many people are asking questions: what the hell is going on? Why Syrian Arab Army is not fighting these terrorists? How it is possible that even in Aleppo, by the way, these terrorist groups entered without fight? I have no answers, dear friends, on that. I also have questions about this situation. What is going on, really? Where is Syrian army? Where is money that was given to Syria to build up its armed forces? Where that all support went from Russia, from Iran, that Bashar al-Assad's regime received? What is going on there? Some may say this is some sort of big geopolitical game being played, and that's why Syrian Arab army is not giving a fight. I don't know. I don't know what is happening. But or I can give you my explanation, dear friends, if you are interested. In my personal opinion, one of the reasons why Israel, US, UK, Turkey launched this offensive is that, as I said many times before, Western ruling class wants a regional war in the Middle East, so that navigation will be shut down in the Persian Gulf and through Hormuz states, and China will be cut off from Middle Eastern energy sources. And as you know, right now, main route to export energy from a Persian Gulf countries, oil, gas, and so on, is Persian Gulf itself and this Hormuz Strait, right? But in recent years, we all observed how significantly relationships improved between, let's say, United Arab Emirates and Assad's government, between Saudi Arabia and Assad's government, right? And that means that theoretically speaking, these countries would manage to build the pipelines, northwards, right? Northwards. From Saudi Arabia, for example, into Iraq, and then from Iraq to Syria, right? Towards Mediterranean shore, and that will give Persian Gulf countries alternative route for export. right? And if that will happen, by the way, if they will succeed, then Western ruling class will struggle to cut off China from Middle Eastern energy sources because, okay, if they will manage to disrupt navigation in the Persian Gulf or through Hormuz Strait, there would be another route, another way, right? These pipelines, for example, gas pipelines or oil pipelines that would go from Arabian Peninsula to Iraq and then to Syria and the Mediterranean, right? And Western ruling class don't want this. Western ruling class don't want this to happen. And that's why they are now yet again destabilizing Syria, so that Damascus area, the Doha, Abu Dhabi will not even think about, or Iran, by the way, will not even think about building any energo projects that will connect their oil fields and gas fields with the Mediterranean. That's what is happening, by the way. This is all about the geopolitical struggle between Western ruling class and China, and many countries, by the way, getting smashed as a result of this fight for economical dominance over the world between two major economical superpowers, West and China, or global South. So that can be one of the reasons, by the way. This is my take on the situation. That can be one of the reasons why we are seeing now this whole new level of escalation in Syria. And there might be another reasons also. You share your opinion, dear friends, what you think is happening in Syria and what is the fate of this country. Because me personally, I wouldn't be surprised at all if in couple of weeks' time, under such a pace of offensive, terrorist groups will even manage to establish control over the Damascus, capital of Syria. They're already in control of Aleppo. Reports were that these terrorist groups entered and they established control over the Hama, strategical city in southern western Syria. Although later on this information was debunked, because I saw videos just before I start recording this update about presence of Syrian Arab Army forces on the northern side of this city. So therefore, most likely, Damascus is still in control of Hama, but for how long? That's the question. For how long? And by the way, of course, it is a possibility that eventually Syria will be divided in several parts. Kurdish forces will be in charge, as they are already, of northern eastern part of Syria. Terrorist groups will be in charge of the rest of the Syria, with the exception of Latakia and Tartus areas where predominantly Alawites are living. Alawites are Shiites, by the way, one of the religious movements inside the Shiite movement. And the Shiites are also Muslims, of course. It's like we have, Christians. There are so many different churches and there are movements inside the Christianity, isn't it? And same is happening in Islam also. And there is majority is Sunni Muslims, minority is Shiite, and there, as among Sunnis, are different sects. Same is happening among Shiites, and Alawites are such a movement inside the Shiite Muslims, and the Alawites are predominantly are living in this on the shore of Mediterranean, around Latakia and Tartus, and Russian bases, by the way, major bases, military bases, airfield and naval base also is based here. I believe Houthis, by the way, are Alawites also, or they are Shiites, and I think they are close to Alawites. Although don't ask me about some nuances about these groups. I'm not theologist, by the way. I don't know details of all that stuff, but anyways, some very significant developments are taking place, and maybe we are observing last days of Syria as a state. That's possibility also, and unfortunately, if the situation continues to deteriorate under such a pace, then one should not be surprised if in a week or 2 weeks time Russia will have no option but to evacuate its citizens from Syria and its military presence, its military personnel from Syria, including these major bases, air base and naval base. Although, of course, situation may be turned around if Russia will deploy additional forces, if Iran will deploy troops, and this might happen because according to some reports, Assad's regime, Damascus asked Tehran for military assistance, and if Iranian leadership will decide to send its ground forces and air force to support Syria to deal with this terrorist attack, then, well, of course, tide will be turned in that case, because I have no doubts that Iranian ground forces will smash those terrorists in relatively short time. And by the way, they will gain battle experience meanwhile, which is also can be one of the reasonings why Tehran may made such a decision to send its troops. And who knows, maybe right now Tehran and Baghdad, leadership of Iran and Iraq are in talks to allow Iranian forces to cross to enter Syria through Iraqi territory. And as you can see, dear friends, on the map, this is Iran, this is Iraq, and the only way Iranian troops can enter Syria is either by naval expeditionary force to reach Latakia and Tartus, or through ground, on the ground, only through Iraq. And that might happen. That might happen, by the way. I mean, difficult situation. Many opinions, of course, many attempts to explain what the hell is going on. I have my takes. Some of it I did share already. You have your opinion. Please share your opinion in the comment section. And well, time will tell. Time will tell. We have this report that since the beginning of this terrorist offensive, about 1,000 terrorists were neutralized by Syrian troops, and mainly, by the way, let's be real here, mainly by Russian Air Force, right? Because Russian Air Force is working very actively and decimating these columns of their terrorists. There are so many videos, isn't it, on internet? I'm not sharing on my Telegram all of those videos because there's too graphic, really, but I did share some of those videos, right? And Russian Air Force is actively working, and most likely, 80% or majority of the casualties among terrorists is due to active work of Russian special forces on the ground and Russian Air Force. And the real number of casualties among these terrorists could be even higher, even much higher than 1,000. We'll find out, I guess, soon. And that's it when it comes to Syrian story, by the way. There's plenty of news, but hopefully I shared enough information on the current development. Seems like this pace of offensive is slowing down of the terrorists because they are stretched. Their forces are stretched because I guess even they did not expect such a rapid advance. And in many areas, these terrorist groups were forced to retreat actually from settlements that they already occupied because they were unable to build up defensive fortifications. And when Shiite groups conducted counteroffensive, these terrorists stood no chance to hold on to their positions. So already these are not necessarily governmental forces, but Shiite militias that are affiliated with Iraq, Iran, or Lebanon They are conducting now offensive operations. The Russian Air Force is in support, Russian ground forces. And yet again, tide may be turned around if Russia and Iran will get involved in a bigger way. Otherwise, I guess that's gonna be it for Syria, because I have no belief that Syrian Arab army is a really capable force. From what I see in last several days, I mean, I'm not sure we can even call the army to that bunch of cowards, man. They left Aleppo without fight, really? What a cowards, man. Not all of them, not all members of that so-called army, but because some units really are giving good fight, but majority seems like are just cowards, man. Unbelievable. Anyways, I don't really care about Syria that much, let's be real here, but it's a major development, and therefore Russian media is paying attention to it, obviously. Let's go through some other news, man. RIA Novosti is reporting, oh, I already reported about it. So TASS news agency, by the way, with the news that during the autumn, Russian armed forces liberated 88 settlements, big and small settlements, in zone of special military operation, and also, of course, in zone of counter-terrorist operation in Kursk salient area. I'm not going to go through the list of these settlements. Of course, we all remember major successes, like, for example, liberation of Selidovo or liberation of Ugledar, right? Many other settlements. So autumn was quite a big success for Russian armed forces, for sure. TASS news agency is also reporting that the newly appointed head of EU's diplomacy, Kaja Kallas, together with her, I mean, let me translate, man, these positions of Brussels bureaucrats are. So the new heads of EU diplomatic service and the European Council, Kaja Kallas and Antonio Costa, left for Kiev on their first day of work in this position. Kallas and Costa wrote about it on the Twitter X. Okay, Russophobes, by the way, Kaja Kallas is going to be head of, and she is already head of EU diplomacy. Well, that's quite something, isn't it? This uneducated xenophobe gonna represent EU. Okay, man. Okay. Man. If Borrell was disaster, by the way, for EU, then Kaja Kallas gonna be something even something bigger, something bigger when it comes to all the negativity that EU is generating worldwide, man. She's I don't know, man. Who cares? Who cares, man? If I was diplomat of any country, by the way, I would not shake hand with their Brussels bureaucrats. They are just too dirty. Those so-called, leaders of the EU. I truly would not shake hands. I mean, they are dirty fucking animals, man. I despise them, all of them, man. I would not stand next to them because they are just too dirty, man. In every possible way, man. Their souls are corrupt. They are just despicable, disgusting elements, man. So fuck them all. Sorry for my French, dear friends, but I really despise those creatures, man. I really, truly despise those creatures. I don't hate them. I just despise them, you know. Грязные, блин, мразоты. TASS news agency is reporting that, well, according to article in Financial Times, in 2024, more military personnel deserted from Kiev regime's forces than in previous 2 years. About 60,000 criminal cases were opened by prosecution in prosecutor's office in Kiev-controlled territory against people that deserted the ranks of Kiev regime's forces. And I hope they managed to hide somewhere or left Kiev controlled territory. They made the right decision, by the way. Why should they fight against their brothers and sisters? So that these despicable Western ruling elites will, make more money and try to improve their positions on geopolitical chessboard. Why should they die for geopolitical agenda of the Western elites, man? It's so simple. It's so simple, man. For what these people have to fight and die? For what? Russia is not a threat for them, right? They being used as a tool to threaten Russia. But take a look at the areas, by the way, which is liberated by Russia already. Take a look at the Mariupol, by the way. More and more people are going back to that city, including, by the way, from West. There are waves, by the way, of the migration of Ukrainians from citizens of this so-called Ukraine that initially left for the Western countries, and now they are coming back to Russia. And many of them are going back to places that they were living. And Mariupol, by the way, is rebuilt, and people are happy there, right? You can just don't take my word for it, by the way. Just Google or use Yandex, by the way. Google may not show nothing. Use Yandex, Russian search engine, and see, by the way, Mariupol before conflict, before special military operation, and Mariupol now. Russia is heavily investing, by the way, in these liberated territories, in new Russian regions, and just give it a time, by the way, give it a time, and these places will regain, not just regain all the beauty that they had there, but they will be much more developed than ever, right? So yes, interesting news that desertion is becoming a massive problem for Kiev regime. Great news, I like that. RT is also reporting that Zelensky changes position on ceasefire terms. I don't really want to pay attention to anything that says Zelensky because he is nobody, right? He's just a dirty puppet of Washington and London, so why should anybody care what Zelensky has to say? But Russian media pays attention, so therefore I'm reporting about it also. So Ukrainian so-called leader Vladimir Zelensky has said for the first time that he might be willing to agree to a ceasefire with Russia without taking control of a territory he demands be returned to Kiev. Zelensky has previously insisted that only the complete withdrawal of Russian forces from territory that was once part of Ukraine and the restoration of the country's 1991 borders would serve as a precondition for peace and negotiations. In an interview with the Sky News on Friday, Zelensky was asked to comment on recent reports that U.S. President-elect Donald Trump team is considering allowing Russia to keep territory claimed by Ukraine in exchange for Kiev becoming NATO member. Ukraine joins NATO, but Russia takes control and keeps their land that has to date. Would that be a possibility? Ramsey asked, some so-called journalist from Sky News asked this creature, Zelensky. And Zelensky said it could potentially serve as a foundation for a ceasefire. If we want to stop the hot phase of the war, we need to take under the NATO umbrella the territory of Ukraine that we have under our control, he said. We need to do it fast, and then on the occupied territory of Ukraine can get them back in a diplomatic way, he added. As I said, man, some nonsense from this dirty animal, right? Dirty puppet of Washington and London. No statements from Zelensky means anything to me personally and to anybody here in Russia. We don't respect anyone from Zelensky's regime and Zelensky himself. They are nobodies, by the way, clearly. But that's what he is talking about. And once again, Russia don't give a damn about what Zelensky has to say, what Trump has to say, what are anybody in the West or anyone from their puppets have to say. We will do whatever is necessary. And by the way, if once again, if Trump thinks that he can talk to Russia with some language of force, he's mistaken big time. And he's gonna destroy US. That's what he's gonna manage to achieve with such an approach. No Ukraine will. First of all, there is no Ukraine, right? I don't recognize no Ukraine, by the way, as a state. It's a total nonsense mistake that was created by Bolsheviks. But that's my personal take, right? Anyways, Russian leadership was very clear that in no circumstances the so-called Ukraine will join NATO, right? In no circumstances, and I don't think Russian position will change. Western parts of Ukraine, we don't give a damn about that. Western parts of Ukraine, take it and eat it, by the way. We don't care, right? And deal with those Nazis and the fascists that you were supporting. Those western parts of Ukraine are stronghold, by the way, for those fascists, right? So keep it and deal with it, live with it. But when it comes to the rest of their territory, which is a historical Russian territory, no NATO, by the way, gonna be established there. In no circumstances. We will all fight and die if necessary, but we will not let our enemies to bring their military infrastructure right next to our border so that they can launch missiles that will have flight paths, for example, towards Moscow just 5 minutes. We just cannot allow that to happen. And if they can reach Moscow in 5-7 minutes, then Rostov, by the way, Voronezh, Kursk, Belgrade, all these cities, of course, will be under immense threat, right? We cannot allow this to happen. And if necessary, I said many times before, the Russian president can come out and say, you know what, dear friends, you know what, people, my fellow citizens, you all see what the hell is going on, right? West is waging war against us, and to defend ourselves, we need to do large-scale, full-scale mobilization now, and we have to take on our enemies and defeat them. And this mobilization would not be mandatory or nothing, but we are waiting to you, and let's do it. And trust me, dear friends, if defense ministry is ready to receive millions of people and to arm these people, then millions of people will act on this call, including myself, by the way. I'm going to be one of the first. I may have some doubts that because of some medical condition, I may not be that useful on line of contact, but I don't care, man. I can do something, right? I can be useful in some ways. I'm not a special forces member, right? I don't know how to shoot and that kind of stuff. Probably I will not be able to disassemble and reassemble AK, at least in a minute or 2 minutes time. If you give me an hour, I will probably deal with it. But anyways, I can do something, right? And millions of my fellow citizens will have a similar reaction. We will go, by the way, and we will do whatever is necessary to defend the future of our kids and our grandkids, right? As my grandfather did for me and my generation, right? That's what is going to happen, by the way. So it will be better for Trump and his administration to wake up to objective reality and realize that nobody ever can speak with us with language of force. It's just counterproductive. You're gonna make us angry, by the way. And when we are angry, well, there are a number of countries, by the way, right, that historically know what is happening when we become angry. So all this BS, by the way, that conflict will be frozen and this and that, and the Ukraine will join up, this is nonsense. This is non-starter. And if Trump really wants to spend time on this nothingness, then okay, let him do it. But I don't know, man. I don't know. I guess many people in US and worldwide already are disappointed with with Trump and his future administration because of their certain statements and certain informations that coming in from that group. Judge Napolitano, by the way, I mean, many members of our community, many of you, of course, are familiar with Judge Napolitano and his guests, and you clearly can see how disappointed these people, Judge Napolitano himself and his guests, majority of his guests, are with some appointments, future appointments that Trump will make in his administration, and some and with some potential policies that will be implemented under the Trump. So, I mean, it is what it is, man. Of course, there is still hope that there may be some adequate people around Trump who will influence him, and hopefully there are some groups among U.S. Hopefully there are some adequate people in among decision makers in U.S. Let's say this way, you know, and they will realize that it's better for U.S. to de-escalate. It's better for them to de-escalate with Russia. Otherwise, they're all gonna die. As simple as that, right? They're just all gonna die. And I don't think they are dreaming about, right? I don't think they are suicidal. So let's de-escalate. Let's de-escalate before it's not too late. Otherwise, well, I believe in fate, by the way. What is going to happen will happen no matter what. So I have no reason to worry that much. If I have to die, I'm gonna die. I will die a happy man, by the way, because I am a happy man, and that's it, right? RT is reporting that British spy chief admits covert action. Dear friends, as you probably noticed, this update, today's Sunday, so today's update is in much more casual style than usually, but hopefully it's okay. So RT is reporting that British spy chief admits covert action against Russia. They are admitting openly now that they are waging proxy war against us. British Secret Intelligence Service agents have been involved in covert operations against Russia on behalf of Ukraine. SIS head Sir Richard Moore has said, "Sir, this pig is a sir." Okay, UK, you have pigs now in your among your sirs, and kings and queens are giving this sir title, isn't it? Oh, Sir Richard, really dirty fucking prostitute, man. So the SIS was created by, who cares, man? This is MI6, by the way, Pigstay in UK, where all these dirty animals are working. So this dirty bitch, what is his name? Richard Moore stated that, and this is quote, "We cherish our heritage of covert actions, which we keep alive today in helping Ukraine resist the Russian invasion." This criminal said his admission came just a day after former UK Prime Minister, another pig, by the way, another dirty fucking prostitute, Boris Johnson, openly declared that Ukraine is a proxy of NATO, and this is proxy war against Russia. So, okay, more and more admissions that they are waging proxy war. Russia has every reason, by the way, every reason to retaliate against UK with whatever force is necessary. And if it was up to me, I will recommend citizens of UK to just flee Ireland for a little while, just to stay on safe side, because God knows, man, these animals that are in charge of UK may provoke any sort of escalation, and well, we all understand what will happen to that island, right? It will turn into radioactive wasteland. So therefore, if it was up to me, and if people have such opportunity, they should just flee that island for a little while, just in case, because ordinary people did nothing wrong, right? It's these fucking animals that are in charge of collective West that are pushing humanity towards total annihilation. That's what it is, and that's why I'm saying Western ruling class is existential threat for humanity, by the way, because it is the case. This is true, actual true, by the way, that Western ruling class is an existential threat for you, for me, for everybody. That's true, by the way. You want to know who your enemy is? Look no further than Western ruling class. That's your enemy. That's my enemy, and that's everybody's enemy. RT is reporting that meanwhile Russia is considering, seems like, nuclear testing to be conducted. So Russia could resume nuclear tests, according to deputy of the foreign minister. Russia does not rule out the resumption of the nuclear tests, which has not conducted since the waning days of Soviet Union. Deputy Foreign Minister Sergei Ryabkov has said, without getting ahead of myself, I will simply say that the situation is quite complex. It is constantly being considered in all its components and aspects, he said, while talking about possibility that nuclear testing may resume. And well, why not? Let's demonstrate what nuclear weapons are capable of. I believe just a few days ago, commander of Russian nuclear test site in Norway Zemlya archipelago, which is on the northern side of Russia, by the way. So that's Norway Zemlya, I believe, this island, and that's where this nuclear test site is. And well, maybe Russia should detonate a nuke, and not underground, but on the ground or in atmosphere, you know, just to demonstrate what a nuclear explosion means, and just to highlight, just to remind public, especially in the West, towards what their own elites are pushing this world. So I'm all for nuclear testing to be conducted as yet another additional attempt of Russia to remind everybody in this world how dangerous it is to mess around nuclear superpower. You know. Let's continue. And RIA Novosti is reporting that yesterday, late evening, police once again dispersed Western-controlled crowd in Tbilisi, capital of Georgia, so-called opposition and their supporters, by the way, that are controlled, financed by the West. And unfortunately, situation is getting more and more difficult in Georgia and for Georgia. For now, government is managing to keep control, but unfortunately, this Western-controlled or these Western assets in Georgia are intensifying, escalating, actually. Escalating. I saw many videos, by the way. You clearly can see level of organization. It resembles actions of this so-called opposition in Tbilisi, clearly resembles actions of Ukrainian Nazis and the fascists during the Maidan in 2014 when coup d'etat was conducted, right? They are using this radio communication, by the way, to organize groups. They are I saw one of the videos when hundreds of these respirators was given to these members of these groups, organized groups, by the way, so that they will continue their destructive action, even when police will use, how you say, slezotочивый gas, pepper sprays, for example. And unfortunately, as I said, by the way, unfortunately, it is highly likely that Western ruling class will use not just these assets that we are seeing right now on the streets, but unfortunately, it is highly possible that Western ruling class in relatively short time start deploying armed groups. And I believe already in Tbilisi, in Georgia, terrorist groups are deployed by NATO, terrorist groups that undergo training in Kiev-controlled territory, and they will start using weapons against law enforcement officers. In short, most likely snipers will open fire at one point on protesters and also on police officers, as it happened in Kiev the day before coup d'etat actually was conducted, and many other destructive bloody provocations will take place. And I'm not sure that Georgian public and Georgian government will manage to withstand this pressure. One should keep in mind, by the way, that in last decades and decades, very many officers of Georgia's secret services, Georgian armed forces, or even police were sent to West, to US, to undergo some training and this and that. And who knows how many of them were recruited by CIA. And on what positions in Georgia's security services those people are right now. And when I say Western ruling class will most likely use all their assets, I mean assets inside the government and assets inside their law enforcement agencies and their defense ministry also. So I don't know. If you ask me, by the way, I will tell you that 90% Western ruling class will succeed with the regime change in Georgia, and then they will sacrifice Georgia as they're sacrificing Ukraine right now. Unfortunately, I have no. I don't really believe that current leadership of Georgia will manage to deal with this situation. Not now. Not now, it seems like. But I hope I am wrong. I hope I'm reading big picture wrongly. But unfortunately, my belief is that Western ruling class most likely will succeed with regime change this time. They are just too invested, right? Let's see. And by the way, meanwhile, the so-called president of Georgia, asset of CIA, Salome Zurabishvili, stated yesterday that she is not going to leave the office once her presidency will expire on 16th of December. She claims that her parliamentary election was illegal. She claims that parliament is illegal and therefore parliament cannot elect her new president. And before new president that she will counter as illegal is elected, she is going to act as a president of Georgia. Some nonsense, by the way. Why she is still in office? She is clearly making anti-state, anti-constitutional statements. She's Western assets. Why she's not arrested? That's why I have no belief, by the way, that Georgia's current leadership will manage to deal with this situation and will manage to keep safe Georgians and Georgia. They will fail because very strong actions need to be taken. Strong actions that will isolate completely them from West. But that's the price that they have to pay. If they want to serve Georgian people, really, then they have to make choice. Either they are serving people and by doing so becoming a target for a Western ruling class, and they might lose everything, including their lives. Either they are making that decision and risking it all, by serving their people, or they are just acting by half measures, and their half measures are never work. Currently, they are acting with half measures. And unfortunately, there is so many examples in history when half measures never actually work. And eventually you are losing. Why she is still in office of president when she is clearly making anti-constitutional statements that endangers people of Georgia? Why these so-called opposition leaders are still free? Why they are not in prison when it is so clear that they are assets of the Western secret services? It is clear. And I'm quite sure Georgia's secret services have factual evidences of that. So why those people are not arrested? Why Western assets are not neutralized? You know why? Because current leadership of Georgia is acting with these half measures. They don't want to become a target for Western ruling class. They don't want to risk it all. And eventually they will lose because of that. That's what happened to Yanukovych, isn't it, in 2014? He was also taking some half measures. He could disperse this Nazi crowd in Maidan. Just order was needed, order, right? But he did not give such orders. He did not act as it was necessary. And what happened then? As a result of half measures, this Nazi, Western-run Nazi crowd managed to conduct coup d'etat in Kiev, and that was the beginning of the end of Ukraine, right? And I'm afraid very same will happen in Georgia, unfortunately. So US, meanwhile, is cutting a strategical partnership with Georgia. This was initially posted by representative of a State Department, and then that post was deleted, I believe, or something. But well, US is heavily involved in this attempt to conduct regime change in Georgia, isn't it? State Department, US CIA, and whatever secret services they have. So obviously they will use now all the tools they have to pressure current government in Georgia and to antagonize people in Georgia more. Although, by the way, at this point, I'm quite sure vast majority of Georgians are realizing that US elites are not their friends. Western elites in general are not the friends of Georgia or Georgian people. So therefore, majority will have no care about what State Department has to say, right? But still, Washington is already using whatever they think are necessary to move this process of regime changing in Georgia to further escalate, and eventually I'm afraid they will achieve their goal. Because even though, for example, Prime Minister of Georgia, Kobachidze, is stating that government will do whatever is necessary so that Maidan scenario will not repeat itself in Georgia, but yet again, they are acting with half measures, right? They are acting with half measures, and this is not enough. This is just not enough. They should realize that. When that criminal, so-called president of Georgia, is saying that she will leave no office and she is not recognizing parliament and she is calling Western countries to impose sanctions on Georgia, and she is acting as an enemy of Georgian people and Georgia, and she is still not arrested for treason, when these so-called opposition leaders are not arrested for treason for all the crimes that they committed, not just now, but since 2003, 2004, by the way. Well, what you expect that is going to happen, man? Half measures are never enough, never. But, we will see, RIA Novosti is reporting that Trump, again, by the way, is threatening left and right, just about everybody. Trump's camp, and now Trump himself, right? And this time, I have this news for you that Trump threatened basically BRICS member states and all the countries that want to become BRICS members or to cooperate with BRICS, that if they will even make single step towards creating alternative currency, or if they will move away from using dollar, then Trump will impose 100% tariffs on all the countries. And okay, man, okay, you want to act tough. Do you really are in a position to act that way? Do you really think that you can bully the rest of the world? I don't know. Try. Here in Russia, we just don't give a damn about anything that is said by US leadership, right? We just simply don't care. We don't see you as an important force. We really don't. I mean, who the hell is Trump, man? I mean, who is he? He's just a same puppet of deep state in US as Biden was. He just talks more clearly, right? He just talks more clearly because Biden was completely out of touch with reality. Trump is still here. And as I said, man, maybe some people had some high hopes on him, but I guess no anymore. not anymore. And this statement, by the way, he is threatening BRICS. I mean, you're not even in office yet. I mean, why you are doing this? And why forces that are behind him, who actually choose him, allow him to become president again, why they're acting this awkwardly? I mean, this badly. This is no good, man. Why if you are tough, you don't talk about it too much, right? Tough people don't talk about how tough they are. They're not playing around, for God's sake, right? Tough people are as calm, as nice as they can be. But when it comes to it, I mean, they can do some stuff without making any, unnecessary statements. So someone should tell Trump that, I mean, he looks like a clown, man, while acting this way. Let's translate this, man. Let's translate this. What the hell, man? US President-elect Donald Trump has threatened BRICS countries with huge tariffs if they do not abandon plans to create an alternative currency to the dollar. We demand from these countries a commitment not to create a new BRICS currency and not to support any other currency to replace their powerful US dollar. Otherwise, they will face 100% duties, he said on the Truth Social network. Okay, Trump. Okay. Why anybody thinks that countries worldwide have any obligations to US, man, or to Western elites? We don't give a damn about Western elites, man. And if US acts friendly towards us, okay, we acting friendly towards US. But if US acts hostile, then do we have a choice? Right? I'm speaking politically, by the way. I'm always speaking about politicians and political stuff. I'm never touching ordinary people, because I'm 100% convinced the US citizens, majority at least, don't really see us as enemies, and I'm 100% convinced that vast majority of us here in Russia don't see citizens of US as our enemies, because they are not, right? But when it comes to the so-called elites there, I mean, that's a whole different story. They are crazy, by the way. They hate their own fellow citizens, seems like, and they hate just about everybody else. Everyone else, right? And Trump now is threatening 80% of this world, man. Holy shit, man. What the hell is wrong with you, man? Sorry for my French once again, dear friends. How long is this update? I mean, it's already 52 minutes. Okay, for Friday, I hope this casual style is okay. All my videos are casual style, but sometimes more casual than, So Vzгляд newspaper is reporting that China and Japan are dropping US papers, by the way, US obligations, and for tens of billions of dollars, by the way, actually. And let's translate this also. And this is definitely not a good sign. Either these countries actually need a significant amount of money right now, which is hardly the case, or they are just losing confidence in US financial system and in US economy. So in the third quarter of this year, China and Japan got rid of a significant share of US bonds, which is due to changes in US policy and the Fed's rate cut. Japan and China, the largest foreign holders of the US government debt, sold their significant amount of US bonds in the third quarter of 2024. RIA Novosti reports Japan got rid of 61.9 billion worth of bonds, and Chinese funds got rid of 51.3 billion. Analysts attribute this to a result of US presidential election and possible changes in American foreign policy with the arrival of Donald Trump. Whatever the case, when major lenders to you are dropping your bonds, that's definitely not a good sign. And Japan and China are major lenders for US. And I believe China is dropping US bonds for quite a while now. Year-on-year terms, US is getting, China is getting rid of US bonds on, more and more rapid pace because they understand they are next in the line, right? Today, Western so-called elites are focused on Russia. Tomorrow, their destructive attention will be focused on China. And they will provoke, most likely, they will provoke proxy war with China, and they know it. Everybody knows this, isn't it? Just everybody in this planet that pays any attention to news, everyone understands that China is next. And everybody understands that one way or another, but Western ruling class will provoke war between Taiwan and China. It's just, it is what it is, And unfortunately, everyone, especially among decision makers, are acting if they don't know. If they don't know. I don't know, man. We are living in some sort of dumb theater, by the way. That's what it is. RIA Novosti is reporting that, I'll give you numbers, by the way, of volume money that Norway made as a result of its gas sales to EU. So Norway has received more than $100 billion in windfall revenues after some EU countries refused the Russian gas. Russian ambassador to Oslo, Nikolai Korchunov, said in an interview with RIA Novosti, Norway has joined all packages of EU anti-Russian sanctions, with there are some exceptions. At the same time, the sanctions had a double impact on the Norwegian economy. On the one hand, the Norwegians have made a lot of money on displacing Russian gas in Europe, securing more than 115 billion in windfall revenues due to high prices. On the other hand, Oslo has decided to dismantle bilateral trade and economic relations with Russia, which is, of course, connected with some losses, economical and financial losses. But when it comes to gas sales, by the way, Norway is making some good buck. Who can blame them? Who can blame them? EU member states, first of all, did nothing when US and Norway, by the way, US, UK, Norway destroyed that pipelines, Nord Stream 1, Nord Stream 2 pipelines. From 4 pipes, 1 is still operational, but they still are not using it to receive relatively cheap Russian gas. And they are purchasing gas in Norway and overpaying, right? And if you member states want to pay more to Norwegians, then let them. What we can do about it? I just feel sorry that Norway was involved in that terrorist attack on gas pipelines. That's definitely sad page in bilateral relations between Russia and Norway, in the history of bilateral relations, because we will always remember that Norway was a part of that terrorist attack. Although, of course, initiator was the US, and we will also always remember that. But otherwise, Norway saw its opportunity to make good buck on European states, and that's business, right? And one of the reasons why major European economies are experiencing deindustrialization, one of the reasons is actually that Norwegian gas, by the way, that is much more expensive than Russian gas, and therefore European companies are just losing competition on the world market. Even on the European market, by the way, they are losing competition, and nothing to be said about the world market. And therefore, I don't think process of deindustrialization of EU can be stopped at this point. And dear friends, recently, on Friday, I believe, one of the members of our community asked me a question in the comment section. And as you know, I read comments, right? I try to react on as many comments as I can. And I'm grateful for your comments, dear friends. And one of the members asked me about a rating of Russian president. And yesterday I see this news on TASS news agency that level of trust to Russian president is 79% according to CIOM research establishment here in Russia. Let's translate, by the way, at least a little bit this news. So the level of confidence of Russians in Russian President Vladimir Putin, according to survey conducted from November 18 to 24, has not changed since the last week and is 78.8%. These are the data of the All Russian Public Opinion Research Center, CIOM. The study was conducted among 16,000 adult Russians all around Russia. So yes, that's I was, I answered to a member of our community. I said at that point I couldn't remember exact number. I knew it was above 70%. Last time I see news about it, it was definitely above 70%, but I couldn't remember exact number. So I said exactly that in answer, that it's above 70%, maybe 72 or something. And well, a real number is 78.8% according to CIOM, by the way. So, I mean, rating of Russian president is high, not just in Russia, but if you conduct same research worldwide, I guess we will see similar result outside of collective West, by the way. In collective West, due to this anti-Russian Russophobic propaganda, unfortunately, majority of people probably hate us all, right? But in the rest of the world, people don't hate us. People see us as friends, as allies, but definitely not as enemies. And they don't hate us. And therefore, if you conduct such a research, in the rest of the world outside of West, then I guess Putin will have somewhat similar numbers, because he's, one of the top politicians in this world and extremely popular, by the way. I read comments and I see how many members of our community are basically complimenting Russian leadership, right? Including president. So I'm not at all surprised with this number. So yes, that's it, by the way. I will end this update on this news. Once again, dear friends, sorry if you will find this update little too casual in its style, but it's a Sunday, isn't it? And so I hope it's okay. Hopefully you will like this video, and if so, click that like button, please. Leave some commentary just about anything, any topic. This is the only way we can at least try and deal with the algorithm. Last week we managed, by the way, to deal with the algorithm, at least on several occasions. Maybe we can do it today also, or next week. Likes and comments are helping, that's for sure. And if you like my work, if you like my channel, if you think we deserve to exist in this field of news and political commentary, please consider to support with a small donation through PayPal or Boosty platforms, or by subscribing to my Patreon page, where I have plenty of additional extra content, by the way, news updates and many other. I'm trying to maintain pages on Patreon and Boosty interesting. So all the links on this video in description box and in the pinned comment. This is it for now. Have a wonderful day and take care. See you tomorrow.